The afternoon rays shone on the surface of the schoolyard, the heat shimmering on the asphalt. A distant sound of excited students faintly heard through the walls of the classrooms. As the final bell rang, the students spilled out of their classes, running, shouting, and laughing with joy toward the school gate in a hurry to leave. Some boys ran to the basketball court down the schoolyard, while others waited for the bus. Some students drove home on their scooters. Some walked home, hugging the shade of the trees on the way. The sounds of excitement mingling with the busy traffic gave birth to a unique symphony that resounded through the school's corridors. As a minute passed, the laughter disappeared until all you could hear were the little sounds of sputtering engines and horns on the road.
Well, here comes the quiet scenery I prefer.
Leaning on the railing while taking a sight around the schoolyard, to Toh, this moment feels too precious to share with anyone. Toh continues contemplating until being forced to surrender by the harsh winter and the annoying mosquitoes. She returns to the room and suddenly falls asleep without knowing, until being awakened by a familiar voice.
Toh! Oh, Toh-ai!
Teacher? What's the matter?
Even though Toh is still half asleep, a voice is enough to recognize her homeroom teacher.
Toh, it's very late now. Why haven't you gone home yet?
Well, my mom said she's busy at work and won't be able to pick me up soon. There are too many mosquitoes outside, so I asked the security guard if I could stay inside the library, and he agreed. I just need to notify him whenever I leave, so he can lock this room.
All right, if you say so. Make yourself at home then. There are tons of books inside the library, so don't feel shy if you want to read any of them. Do you have any money? Are you hungry? Here, let me give you some of my cash. Just take it and go down to the cafeteria to purchase any food whenever you feel the urge to eat.
A few small bills were given to Toh by the teacher, but Toh disapproved of accepting such a favor.
I need to go now. See you soon.
Wait, teacher, I couldn't.
The teacher left as Toh hadn't finished the talk, but Toh only realized after the sound of the closing door, followed by a fast series of footsteps running down the hallway.
Well, that was awesome.
After putting cash inside the pocket, Toh's head was dropped down to the table again. Her eyes were closed, but somehow her body refused to fall asleep. After multiple yawns, Toh gave in. The dull had reached its peak, and finding a way to entertain is currently the first priority. Toh stood up and gave the room a look around. This place is full of books, newspapers, and old magazines, but unfortunately, none of them are fascinating.
Man, I'm gonna die of boredom if there aren't any good things to read. Maybe checking the bookshelf could give me some hope? My body is powdery white and round, floating and sinking like mountain rivers. Whatever hands may shape me, I still shall keep my true red heart. These 4 lines are from the poem Ban Choi Nuk, or Floating Sweet Dumpling by Ho Xuân Hương, a famous Vietnamese female poet. I remember preparing sweet dumplings with my grandma for the cold food day when I was just a little girl. Making them is pretty easy. All you have to do is prepare a dough with a brown palm sugar cube inside and roll it into small balls, which are then dropped into boiling water. The dumplings are ready when they float to the surface. Then they must be placed in a bowl of cold water right away, or else they will stick to each other. Next, you sprinkle roasted sesame on top, and the dish is ready to eat. The sweet flavor is very unique. I won't ever forget it. That is so nostalgic. Well, back to the book. The title of the poem is referring to a Vietnamese dessert in which glutinous rice balls stuffed with mung bean paste are served in clear brown sugar syrup. The poem used the image of a floating sweet dumpling as a metaphor for Vietnamese women. The first line, "My body is powdery white and round." This is referring to the dessert of white rice balls. However, metaphorically speaking, they are about the beauty of Vietnamese women. The rounded part stemmed from the belief that women with a roundish body texture are considered to be blessed. Hence, "My fate softly rounded." On the second line, "Floating and sinking like mountain rivers." The line is describing how the rice balls are served floating in a syrup. But from a metaphorical perspective, it is describing past Vietnamese women's fate, unstable, unpredictable, and constantly changing. Like how the rice balls are floating up and down the syrup. But notice how they are compared to mountain rivers. This is referring to the indomitable will of Vietnamese women, unhampered, even in hardship, and brushing them off as merely streams. The third line, "Whatever hands may shape me." The line is describing the process of shaping the rice balls. Metaphorically, it is referring to the fact that back in the feudal times, Vietnamese women had no say in choosing their life partner, and they had to comply with their parents' decision, meaning they might end up with someone who treats them badly. This line can also be understood as, "Whether I end up solid or broken is up to the hands of those who shape me," which is referring to how in the feudal era, the happiness of Vietnamese wives is reliant on their husbands, similar to how the shape of the rice balls is totally dependent on the maker. The last line, "I still shall keep my true red heart," describes the red mung bean paste inside the rice balls. However, on a deeper level, it is a statement that no matter the hardship and difficult fate feudal Vietnamese women had to go through, they would always retain their virtuous beauty, unconquered willpower, and a devoted heart to their partner. To most Vietnamese people, red can also be considered as devotion. In conclusion, Ho Xuân Hương used the floating dumpling as a metaphor for Vietnamese women in the old times. Beautiful outside and inside, though their life is full of ups and downs, and they cannot control their fate,